Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you had a good Christmas and boxing's asleep. It's taking a little hibernation period. I think there's a card on Saturday from Japan. That's the only one I can think of. But yeah, a little bit of a break from boxing to recover from all the Christmas pudding. But yeah, it'll be back. It'll be back. And even though boxing was it's taken a little break, of course, for some of us boxing junkies, it never really rests, does it? Because I was talking to a guy over the Christmas break, and he said to me, "Have you heard about Anthony Joshua?" I said, "What about him?" He said, "Well, you know what he's done now, don't you?" I said, "No, I don't. That's why I'm asking you. What has he done now?" He said, "Well, he was on CBeebies reading a children's story. Can you believe it?" I said, "Well, he's got a kid, hasn't he? Like 4 or 5 year old kid or something. I mean, a toddler. Maybe he just wants to do something for his boy." No. It's typical Joshua, isn't it? I said, "What do you mean?" Well, the bloke couldn't explain what he meant. He was just talking drivel, really. But it occurred to me that that was just another silly example of how Joshua is held up to some sort of higher standard than certain others, namely Tyson Fury. And that anyone has a go at him for any reason. Now, look, I like Joshua. I've never met the man. I probably will never meet him. But if I had to guess, I'd say he was probably quite a nice fella. And as a boxing fan, really, I'm only interested in what he does in the ring. Outside the ring to some degree, if you're a PED cheat, I've got no time for you. But Joshua's never been found guilty of PEDs, even though there have been rumours about exemptions from certain, stuff. And, I get it. Okay, I'm not saying he's squeaky clean. I don't know. He's never been tested positive. But if something comes out, believe me, hold me to this, I'll be on him. But he's never been found, he's never had a detrimental test, never pissed hot. So I'm going to take him for what he is, for what his achievements are. And his achievements are that he was an Olympic gold medalist and a two-time unified heavyweight champ. He'd never been undisputed because he never got the chance to be undisputed. But, he's achieved a tremendous amount. Now, I don't understand why people are all over him, why they make fun of it. I know that he made a fool of himself after the second Usyk fight with that meltdown. But come on, man. I mean, we all do silly things like that. And we just don't do them in public in front of millions of people. He did. And although it was embarrassing and he did make a fool of himself, maybe the guy was just letting it all hang out after years and years and years of living under that microscope or in that pressure cooker. At some point, it's going to explode. It's going to come out of you. And when people talk about Joshua, first of all, some of the accusations are so wide of the mark, it's embarrassing. They're made by people who sound like they've never watched a boxing match in their lives. Joshua's got no skills. What are you talking about? Joshua's skills are underrated. His boxing skills I'm talking about. Never mind his power. His power is a given. He has power, a lot of power. But his skills are pretty underrated. He's got a very good jab. His footwork's not bad at all. He can be slightly conventional, perhaps, but he hooks well off the jab. He does all the basics. He does well. Big right cross. Okay, is his chin that bad? Well, he's not. It isn't a concrete jaw. Let's put it that way. But is it a really bad chin? I don't think so. I mean, I still think that before the first Ruiz fight, there was something wrong with him. He'd been knocked out in sparring, or he was ill, or there was something wrong. He just didn't look like the Joshua that we were expecting. And there's no doubt that stoppage defeat, where he was floored several times to Ruiz, has had an effect on him mentally, on his confidence. Now, herein lies the issue with Joshua. It's his mentality, it's his psyche. I don't think he has a particularly high ring IQ. What do I mean by that? Well, I think some fighters, let's compare him to the obvious comparison is with Tyson Fury. I have never at any point thought that Fury would lose to Joshua. As much as I don't like Fury outside the ring, I don't like some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth. I don't like some of the things he does. I don't like the plethora of lies that he tells. But in my opinion, he's a better fighter than Joshua, because one of the reasons is he's got a higher ring IQ. He can adapt on the hop. Some people need to be told what to do. They need to be constantly encouraged. Fury is the type of guy, he'll go in there, and if things aren't going his way, he'll adapt. He doesn't need someone in the corner to tell him. They may, point things out to him, but he's very, very good at. He's got a lot of skills, even though he's a tremendously big man. We all know that. He's just got a lot of skills and an immense amount of mental strength in the ring. Outside the ring, different story, because for some people, this special breed of person, what we call an elite fighter, going into that ring that's their haven, which to us seems just ridiculous. I mean, I could never imagine that being, they might as well be in their living room. To me, that's like going into Hades. It's terrible. But some guys, the elite fighters, they find sort of, I suppose, some sort of soothing mental effect by going into the ring and fighting. They're fighting men. They're born and bred, perhaps, or maybe they just have a natural psyche that is suited to fighting. Fury is one of those people. Doesn't need anyone to tell him what to do. Has to work on his skills like we all do. Has to work hard, but he gets by. Joshua isn't. Joshua is someone who seems to. Whereas Fury might occasionally need a boot up the arse, Joshua needs an arm around the shoulder. And I think it's despite the fact that he has this mental vulnerability. Is that the right word? Is that too strong a phrase? I think the fact that he has that and he's achieved what he has achieved is tremendous. Considering he had a successful amateur career, but it wasn't particularly long, And I think I don't think it's a case of self-belief. It's certainly not a case of courage. Joshua doesn't lack courage in the ring. It's just that he has doubts. Those doubts can manifest themselves. And I think since the defeat by Ruiz, and certainly on the back of the 2 defeats by Usyk, he's now at a point where he's totally second-guessing himself. After the first Usyk fight, you could tell that, a million miles away, he gave that very strange interview with IFL TV where he talked about being a gangster, and he made references to sort of all sorts of road work and street guys and all this sort of stuff. It didn't ring true. It struck me that he was trying to be someone he isn't. And it seemed to me that he was all over the place mentally. He was totally second-guessing himself, didn't know where he was, had lost his fistic identity, and was struggling to find his identity as a man. Because if you live in that bubble, that public fame bubble, where you're on reality TV shows or chat shows or whatever it is. I mean, he did something with Bear Grylls, didn't he? Was it Bear Grylls when he was out in this? Then he was on the Graham Norton show and all this sort of crap that they do. When you're living in that bubble, it has its own mental pressures. The one thing you can say about Fury is that he has his family. He goes home to his family. He's got a big family. He's got 6 kids now, and probably more to come, knowing him and his missus. But he's got a big family, big external family. Joshua, I don't know much about his family, but I know he's got a son, and But it's just it seems to me that he doesn't have that cushion. He doesn't have that reality, that real base to work from that can keep him grounded. And so I think Joshua, his flaws are not necessarily technical, or not necessarily in terms of skills. I think they're more psychological, and I think that's clearly evident for all to see. It has actually been evident for all to see for a few years now, but never more than recently, especially following the meltdown after the second Usyk fight. That is why I think Fury jumped on him and said, "I'll fight you at the end of 2022," and because he knew he was at his most vulnerable, he could get him, and it was really just clout chasing. I don't think Joshua wanted that fight. I don't think the people around him wanted that fight. I think they wanted him just to go back to basics, get with a proper trainer. The idea of fighting Fury was kind of ridiculous. I don't think Fury really cared about it. I don't think he gave Joshua much of a chance to take the fight. It was really just clout chasing, but I don't think Joshua really wanted the fight anyway. I think he wants to get back, strip it all down, get back to basics and build from the foundations up, which is fair enough. The guy's suffered 3 defeats, 2 back-to-back, and he's still young enough as a heavyweight to pull up a few trees, to make another run at the title, and maybe even to win a belt or two. You just never know. You just never know. It's not over yet. Don't think it's over yet. Defeats don't mean anything to me personally. I like the old timers. Ray Robinson, who a lot of people cite as being the greatest fighter ever, had 19 defeats by the time his career was over. Roy Jones, more recently, ended up with 9. If you told me in the early 90s Roy Jones would end up with 9 defeats, I would never have believed you. You go way, way, way back to, say, Sam Langford, 31 defeats. Henry Armstrong, how many did Henry Armstrong? I can't remember offhand. Was it 20-something? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're defeated, if you fight everyone. And here is another reason why I respect Anthony Joshua, because for all his psychological chinks in the armour, for all the celebrity bum fluff that comes with him, he's fought everyone. He's been on a long line of ever since Dillian White for the British title, where he took White's undefeated record all the way up. Povetkin, Pulev, Klitschko. I know Klitschko was coming off a layoff and wasn't young anymore, but Dominic Brazil was undefeated. Parker was undefeated. He's gone on a run where inevitably, if you do that sort of, you're doing all your mandatories, you're fighting all these undefeated guys, these people who are, somewhat past their best, but have got something left. You're going to come a cropper at some point, and he did with Ruiz. But he got his revenge in a very, cautious, conservative manner, but he got his revenge. He couldn't do it with Usyk. Okay, well, Usyk's a terrific fighter. He's a great fighter. He's going to the Hall of Fame, going 24 rounds with Usyk ain't bad, actually. Even though he's, naturally the bigger man, nevertheless, we're talking heavyweights here. Usyk's not a small guy. So I think the fact that AJ has done that makes me respect him a great deal. Again, as a boxer, as a fighter. I don't know him as a person. But the double standard is so striking. Can you imagine if AJ had said, I'll have Derek Chisora as a voluntary defence when he had the title? People would have gone, what? Derek Chisora, having a laugh? Well, Fury had him. And disgraceful mismatch, in my opinion. But they fought, and apparently it made money because Fury's box office. I don't know why. I don't know why people would accept something with Fury that they would not accept from AJ. Is it just what they now call hate? Is it just double standard? It's certainly double standards. Is it hypocrisy? Probably, If you're objective, if you believe in reasonable adult thought, you've got to avoid hypocrisy. You've got to compare and contrast people in the same, hold them to the same criteria. You can't say, well, so-and-so I'm going to say this about so-and-so and I'm going to let them get away with that, but I'm not going to do it for fighter B. That's just piss and wind. It's just meaningless. It's not debate. It's just a stupid way of looking at anything, boxing or anything. And I think Joshua deserves far more credit than he gets. And I think they cut Fury way, way too much slack. Fury he's failed a drugs test. Can you imagine if AJ had fought a Sefer Safiri, a Tom Schwartz, a Pianetta, Derek Chisora? Let's say, AJ fought, I don't know, someone from his past, someone who he'd beaten years ago. What do you think the Fury fans would say? Well, they'd be up in arms. They'd be slagging him off. And it's all, look, Fury has an immense amount of talent, but he talks a lot of crap outside the ring. And a lot of the stuff he does, I'm not going to go over it again with a fine tooth comb because I don't need to. He's just fought a guy he's beaten twice before years ago. And that's called a world title fight. Can you imagine if AJ had done that? Would the Fury fans be holding him to the same, would they be cutting him the slack? Of course they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't. It's just sheer stinking hypocrisy. And I've never met Fury, I've never met Joshua, don't know either of them, don't really care if I ever met them. But what I hate is hypocrisy. And it is just absolute hypocrisy to slag Joshua off when you're cutting Fury so much slack. And as for this, silliness that this bloke was talking, well, AJ's he's reading a kid's story on CBeebies. Well, I'd rather listen to Joshua read a kid's story and I would listen to Fury sing in that fake Yank accent of his. It just seems to me like that there's two different standards. Anyway, I've ranted and raved for too long. Well, maybe too long. But give me your opinions below. Another thing is about Joshua. Oh, he's robotic. No, he isn't. Oh, he's like Frank Bruno. No, he isn't. He's nothing like Frank Bruno. He's got skills. His feet aren't bad. He moves pretty well. You know, I don't know. I just, some of the criticism, you do have to wonder whether these people have ever even watched boxing, if they understand anything about the names they're talking about. But leave your thoughts below. Leave your comments below. What do you think of Joshua? Because even though he made a tit of himself after the second Usyk fight, I think he's, when you consider what he's achieved, and when you consider the good he's done for British boxing as well, elevating British boxing onto the world stage, especially the heavyweight division, which is the flagship division of boxing, he's done Britain proud. And he seems like a decent enough guy. John Fury thinks he's a decent enough guy anyway. Interesting that Tyson's not happy that John's friends with... or not friends, but on friendly terms with AJ. Yeah, interesting that. That's almost like someone might be a bit jealous. I don't know. Anyway, leave your thoughts below, comments below, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, all that stuff that you do it now. And of course, many thanks for all your time. I love it when you watch these videos. Even if you don't agree with me, I appreciate your time anyway. We'll speak again soon. In the meantime, take care and bye for now.